recording. We're on, so welcome everybody to the fifth in a never-ending series of show and tell. And I actually enjoy doing these because I get to hear from a lot of people. In this case, with our first guest speaker, Cy Berger, I just happened to bump into you, Cy, just because I saw that somebody had sent me the article, a link to the article that were you in that Austrian newsletter, and I said, "Oh my God!" I said, "We got to call and see if he wants to do a show and tell." And sure enough, Cy came through, and he's here, guys. So he's got a very interesting a couple of shelf layouts that he's going to describe for you, and it was all due. And Cy was from around here. I'm so delighted that he's here. And was a longtime member of the Amherst Railway Society and part of our group for the op sessions, et cetera, and moved out to the West Coast to be with his family. So still has that bug for model railroading. And I think of you, Cy, every time I see that car of yours on Dick Joyce's layout. So that's always fun. And so, guys, let's get started. And Cy, I'm going to give, if I could find your name. Hold on one second. There's so many people here now. There's like 30 people here, so I have to find you. There you are. So I am actually going, and I'm going to make you the presenter, Cy, right now. So go ahead and click on your accept, and we'll see if we could see your screen.
Okay. I'm going to click on screen.
Yeah.
Well, there we are.
There you go. Yeah, if you want to make that a little bit bigger, that'd be cool.
Coming up.
There you go.
Okay, everyone.
Take it away, Cy.
Thank you. Well, it's good to be back in Amherst, sort of. Been a long time. We've been out here over 8.5 years, and we miss our time in Amherst, but we're doing okay. Sorry about that. Anyhow, I want to present a layout that I have in my retirement apartment. Basically, there are two such layouts. One is a logging layout. That's the one you see on top. And the other is an Austrian layout, narrow gauge layout, which you see at the bottom. I'll explain each as I go along, and I'll have to keep the slides from disappearing, so bear with me. On the top layout, it's HON30. So it's an ON30, not HO, ON30. And what you see on the left is the logging area, and what you see on the right, all the way in the back, is the sawmill. And the operation is to go from that, we're going to have this problem all along. We're going to go from that logging area to the sawmill. There are sidings along the way and a service area, as you can see in the back. That all will become clearer as I go along. Down below is the Austrian Railroad, and it's narrow gauge. It's actually what we're going to have this problem, so bear with me. It's actually a HO scale, but in narrow gauge, European narrow gauge. In this case, whoops, we're getting away from each other. So it would be roughly what we would say in our nomenclature, HON 2.5. The idea is to assemble a train in front of the station and then bring it to the front of the area for disposition, presumably to some other area. What you see there, though, are two shelves, and what's happening at the moment was moving ahead, but you can see it on two supporting arms. That shelf pops out. There are two levers you can see at each end. You pull those levers, and the unit slides out and pops up to the same level as the layout above it, and then it goes onto legs. Used for this purpose is a sliding system that they use for under kitchen cabinets, which, I'm sorry, we'll get back here again. Under kitchen cabinets to store small appliances. So now and here now you can see it popped up with sitting in front of that logging railroad. And it's quite stable on its two legs. It's anchored to the wall. So there we see. And we have our cards and so forth in front. We'll move along. Now looking at the logging railroad a little more closely, there we have guys working on the derrick and a car being unloaded or loaded, to the side over on the right. Here's a little close-up of the men working. This is all O-scale. And another view from a different angle. You can see the truck and the load on the right. Here we see, you can see this is moving to the right from the area. You can see the truck on the left, and there is the service area with diesel containers for a diesel locomotive, steam locomotive, and water and a coal station, as well as sanding area. A little closer look at that. And there we see, there's the Shay. It's actually a replica of the Mishkal Logging Company's number 5 locomotive. They're the logging areas. The cars are all Bachmann ON30. And in the background, you can get a better look at the sawmill area. Here's a closer look at the sawmill itself. Over on the right, the result of the logs, there are boards. So they go in as logs, come out as boards, and the operation is to move them from there to the front of the layout. Little photography going on over next to the sawmill. And here's one of the other locomotives I have. It's a Shay. I'm sorry, it's Climax. And really works beautifully. I've had it for years. There's the other one. This is the Shay. And finally, I have a Heitzler, also a Bachmann locomotive. So there we are with the layout. Gives you some idea. And looking again, just to get you oriented, look down below, and now we're going to look at that layout, which is made up of buildings from one of the stations on the Maria Zelabahn. The Maria Zelabahn it's a running railroad now. I'll get back to that. Let me just say a few more words. The Maria Zelabahn is a railroad that takes people to a pilgrimage site in Mariazel, as well as to winter sports in that area. Okay, now we can move ahead. Here's a close-up. It's quite an accurate replication of the station itself. Still exists, but has been replaced by a more modern one. You can see the cars. The width of that track actually is same as N gauge, but it's HO, and the ties and everything are to HO scale. Close up of the people in front of the station waiting for the train. And here is a mill. This actually doesn't exist in that area, but I had to have an operation. So one of the operations is, of course, to take logging cars to the mill. I like logging. And here we see some of the workers and some of the customers at the mill. By the way, this layout, although you can't see it in this picture, is lighted. The buildings are all lighted. There is my diesel fueling station with people picnicking on the left and just sitting around waiting for a train on the right. A little closer look at that area. This was more or less scratch built from parts. Here you can see one of the diesel locomotives. Actually, the Maria Zelabon is really an electrified line, but I didn't have the patience to try to do that. So it's diesel now. And that's a nice replica of the engine building that actually existed some years ago. The coaling station does not exist in the real world. That's a kit put together. But the freight station on the right is an actual replica of the station, freight station, freight building at the museum, at that particular depot. Here we got a little closer look at the workers, one of the cars. Most of my cars are made by Roco in Austria, and almost all material you'll see has gotten brought over from Europe. This has been sitting in my basement in Amherst for almost 30 years. So actually, this is the first appearance in public. Let me just go back for a moment. You can barely see in the background in the engine house the lights. It's being lit. Here is the steam engine I'm using. It is a replica of the steam engine that existed on the Maria Zelabon. The Maria Zelabon had 6 steam engines. They're all preserved, but this one is used for tourist reasons. And so a whole club is developed to preserve this and to run tourist trains or van trains during the season. It's called the MH6, and it's a rather unusual articulated design. And here we have a rod-driven diesel, very nice unit that also existed on the Maria Zelabon. So there we are. I don't know how I've done on time, but that's the view of my layouts. And I'm having lots of fun building them and enjoying having them.
That's
it, John.
Well, you are perfect on time, and let me just grab the screen back, and thank you very much. And it was fun hearing about it. I saw the article, and I said, "Oh, we got it. We got to get him here." So Cy, thanks so much for showing up, and it's great to
Well, thank you very
hear your
much
voice.
for the opportunity to show my layout.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Very
It
nice.
was nice seeing it.
Cool.
Good.
All right, so guys, next
Take care,
is a real engineer. I mean, 1-to-1 is his scale, and uh, and that guy is Steve Carlson, who is still an engineer and just was called. It sounded like he was called to duty to run an extra last night, even. But I promised you some announcements, so Steve, hang in there, and I'll give you the control in 1 second. I just have two quick announcements, guys. A week from tomorrow, so that's the 19th of September, is our next outdoor meeting, working on the 7 1/4. So all the COVID-19 rules will be in effect. You got to wear a mask. We'll take your temperature. But boy, the last two times we've been doing it, even though that only takes about 5 seconds when you first get there, it's been a lot of fun. So it's from 9 until we get tired. And we get tired around noon. So it'll be, but it's not going to be as hot. So maybe we'll stay a little bit later. It's up to you guys. Bring your own water, bring your own food. The building will be open. You could use the bathrooms. You could get some soda, some water if you didn't bring your own. So that's the first announcement. Second announcement is the East Long Meadow kit. There's only 23 left. We had 50 and we've sold more than half. So if you still want them, it's a fundraiser, but it's reasonably priced and the kits are really actually pretty nice. So let me know. Actually, you could go to the website and go to our store and pick one up, but you could also let me know if I'm going to see you guys, I'll bring one to you. So keep that in mind. So enough of that salesy stuff. Let's move on. So Steve, I am going to give you control and make you the presenter now. So Steve is here, guys, to talk to us all about the Providence and Worcester Railroad.
Good evening, everybody. How you doing? Oh, I lost my screen.
Yeah, I see him.
You see him?
Yeah, but you still have to accept those, Steve.
Oh, okay.
Accept that invitation, and I could do it again if you can't see it.
No, I can't see it now.
Okay, so hold on. Let me just grab the screen back. Oopsie.
Sure.
Let me click on that, grab it back, and let me find you again.
Sorry about that.
Make you the presenter. Oh, we're fine. We're fine. And so I just sent you the request.
Have you?
Can you see it?
Yeah, to share.
Yep. There you go. We got you.
All right, so let's see. Let me know if you got a picture here, Rose.
Yes, we do. We could see you. So you could start the slideshow anytime.
Okay. Wait for it to come up here on mine. All right, there we go. I think we're
John's there. Flyburger was on.
There
we
you go.
All right.
Yep. There you go.
All right. How you doing, everybody? My name's Steve Carlson. I'm from Warren, Mass. Here. I'm an engineer for the Providence and Worcester Railroad. I've been working for the P&W for 20 years. I've been in the industry for 26 years. I've probably met all of you at some point in over the 30 years I've been going to the Amherst train show. Most notably, Gary Muncie and Joe Bergioni. They got me. Well, they were some of the driving forces that got me into model railroading and especially coming into the industry. So this is just a little program I put together. I've got a number of programs on the P&W. I've always brought my camera. I've worked for the New England Central Railroad in Palmer many years ago. Then I came to work for the P&W in 2000. So just a little bit of a show I put together over the last probably 5 to 7 years on the P&W. Just me at work, and because a lot of people know about the history of the Providence and Worcester Railroad. It all harks back to February 3rd of 1973 in Woonsocket, Rhode Island, where Providence and Worcester became an independent railroad against after taking control back from the original New Haven and then Penn Central. So they had their celebration of the reopening in February 1973. Then for a number of years, they operated the railroad with a fleet of 5 RS3s from the Delaware and Hudson Railroad. And of course, as time grew on there with boxcar traffic in the late 1970s, P&W got into the boxcar business as they grew with traffic from Conrail and Boston and Maine. They were the first railroad to be given credit by then Montreal Locomotive Works for brand new locomotives. They purchased over a course of 2.5 years, 5 M420 safety cabs, the first safety cabs that ever came to the United States. This is a picture of the 2002 rolled out the afternoon it was finished in Montreal, Quebec. And then they put them into service. This is the terminal down in Cumberland, Rhode Island, a couple of about maybe 7 or 8 miles north of Providence, Rhode Island. This is Valley Falls, the original terminal, one of the original terminals of the railroad. This is the afternoon local heading down to service the Providence area. Then, of course, once the 1980s arrived, the railroad turned to General Motors for some EMD Jeep 38-2s. This is the shot of the northbound Providence to Worcester train in Millbury, Mass. Then we'll go into some more modern stuff. Like I said, I came to work for the Providence of Worcester in fall of 1999. And a lot of the guys I had known ever since I was a kid, my affliction with the P&W basically went back to when I was in preschool in Quinsigham Village in Worcester, Mass. The train tracks were right out in front. And of course, whenever the train came by, I heard the whistle. I ran, I stepped on my little step stool and saw the train come by. So my grandfather was very good friends with the train dispatcher at the time, Quentin Keel. I'm sure that name probably rings a lot of bells with a lot of guys. Quint was a member of the Amherst Railway Society, good friend of the family. And so as I got older, I just basically said, I want to do something I enjoy. So I went to work for the railroad, and after 5 years with the New England Central, I came to work for the Province of Worcester. So a lot of the guys I work with knew I took pictures and enjoyed the hobby. So they were very good about taking pictures, and I did a lot of my own. So well, this is basically a modern retrospective of what the P&W has. As well as local PR2. This is the industrial highway. We serve about 7 or 8 customers to East Providence, Rhode Island. This is a short section of street trackage. Of course, over the years, many people have ridden the P&W passenger train. They've always prided themselves with fresh paint on their locomotives, passenger cars. Everything's clean. They've always presented a great image. This is last year's Polar Express that ran out of Woonsocket, Rhode Island. And of course, freight pays the bills. This is a welded rail train that came north out of Groton, Connecticut, headed to the Boston and Maine Springfield Terminal interchange at Gardner. This is just below Plainfield, Connecticut, in Griswold. And another one of my interests too is night photography. I've had a Lumidyne light system over the years, and I've often been known to have air problems here and there working nights. I've worked with quite a number of guys over the years who are also photographers. So we stop the train, get some photographs. This is downtown Webster, Mass, of the Worcester to Plainfield night job, heading back to Plainfield, Connecticut. That's another shot of this is one of the employee business trains. It was every year the province of Worcester operated the train and celebrated the employees' milestones, whether it be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, etc. They gave us I was involved in one of them, thankfully, before G&W. They served a nice dinner, and they gave you some gifts. This is the train here in Worcester Yard. A lot of history with the Providence and Worcester Road. It's predominantly a former New Haven railroad. A lot of the towers are still standing these days, up until recent. This is at the junction of Amtrak's Northeast Corridor and the Providence and Worcester main line in Boston Switch in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. This is the northbound train that I own right now. This is the Davisville to Worcester train. Once a year, the P&W always opened up their shops to several events they had, hosting customers, families, and the New England Railroad Club always put on a show every single year, and the P&W usually hosted it, and we had equipment visiting from other railroads. Coincidentally with that, we all worked with our neighbors and our partners in transportation, whether it be Guilford, Pan Am, Norfolk Southern, New England Central, Canadian National. This is actually on the Gardner branch. This is the northbound P&W train. We had got some locomotives in from Pan Am for a circus train, so we returned them the next day. So with me being the conductor on a nice sunny day, well, photo was definitely in order. This is Pan Am's office car train. As we meet up in Gardner to retrieve auto racks from Pan Am that were forwarded to Davis, Rhode Island, down at the NORAD facility in Davisville, Rhode Island. And this is just arriving at downtown Worcester by Worcester Union Station, right at the CP 45 with the junction with P&W and CSX, their east-west main line from Worcester to Selkirk. This is on the Gardner branch. This is the Quinnipoxet Reservoir, just north of Princeton. This is in the middle of the night. We operated all hours of the day and night, getting interchange from Pan Am, and this is a slug of autoracks. We had come down one night, and this is at the time we picked up some new wide cab locomotives from Burlington Northern Santa Fe. These are in fresh paint. And this is the Davisville, Rhode Island section where we interchange with the Seaview Railroad. They're a switching contractor that operates all of our customers. They switch all of our customers down in Davisville, Rhode Island. This is a loaded auto rack train of Subarus. And of course, this is in downtown Worcester, just right Tufts Medical Center. This is the heading toward the Greendale section of Worcester. This is on the joint track between Barber, which is the branch between Air and Worcester, and downtown Worcester, where Union Station is located. We've sent our business train offline to celebrate the new business and have discussions with our connecting carriers with upcoming business. This is on the Green Mountain Railroad. Our business train made the trip over to Whitehall, New York on CP rail tracks and met up with VTR officials and our officials, and we did a trip from Whitehall, New York all the way to Worcester, Mass in one day. This is the depot at Chester, the old former Rutland Railroad depot in Chester. We had done a lot of contract work for Vermont Rail System, and they had an old Central Vermont Russell plow that we painted for them, and we had actually kept it for a couple of years. They had not needed it, so we pressed it into service. This is on the Willimantic line, approaching Willimantic, Connecticut during one of the storms in 2014. And this is another plow extra on the Norwich side, south of Worcester, Mass, just below Auburn and Oxford on the former New Haven main line. Then, of course, it always snows heavy in Gardner. Whenever we're told on a run we're going to Gardner in the wintertime, if there's a storm, there'll be plenty of snow up in Gardner. So naturally, I did the logical thing, and I stopped before the crossing. My engineer let me off, and I walked up the track a little bit and says, "You're gonna come at me at speed and bust through the crossing." This is the only tunnel. No, excuse me. This is the only tunnel on the Providence and Worcester Railroad per se. This is Taft's Tunnel between Plainfield and Norwich, Connecticut. This is a night job. Myself and a good friend of mine, we were heading down to pick up a loaded ethanol train. Predominantly over the last 25, 30 years, stone has been the big business from the state, from several parts of Connecticut, for Tilcon, Tomaso, Connecticut. We distribute it to many different locations: Old Saybrook, Connecticut, Groton, Connecticut, and we run trains to New York City, interchange with the Long Island Railroad and the New York and Atlantic Railroad. This particular photo is the night job train NR2, which goes from Plainfield to New Haven, and this is along the Thames River. And in the background, you can see the Mohegan Pequot Bridge and the Mohegan Sun Casino in the background. And when the train was running during the day, this is just approaching the north side of Groton. That is the USS Nautilus, the submarine, the sub base. That's the museum, and the actual naval sub base is right to the rear end behind the hopper cars right there. And of course, we forward our stone out of points from New Haven, also west to another Tilcon facility in Danbury, Connecticut, and we run underneath the wire on the former New Haven main line, now part of Metro North Commuter Railroad. This is the nightly train CT2. We're pausing for a signal at West Haven, Connecticut. In 2006, the stone was very, very busy. The entire month of October of 2006, we operated extras to service our customers with the stone, and at the time we were operating on the former New Haven Maybrook line, just on the water off of Metro North's Waterbury branch up to Danbury. This is on the Maybrook line. Very, very challenging hilly grade. I've made several trips over the years to New York City. This is on top of Hellgate Bridge. quite a place, quite a place. Not many people get to see the city from the top of the top of the world, as they call it. And as the train, we're waiting for CSX to let us into the yard with Lower Manhattan on the right hand side there. You can see the Chrysler Building, the Empire State Building, and of course, going along with our history with the New Haven Railroad, a lot of, well, besides stations and towers, this is the big giant coaling tower located in Cedar Hill Yard in North Haven, Connecticut. This is our terminus where we go north to Middletown, Connecticut, and points east on the shoreline to Old Saybrook. So every now and again, predominantly, as you've probably seen, I work a lot of nights. I prefer to work quite a bit of nights. This is a day job I was on, daytime switcher, about 8 or 9 years ago, and always presented an opportunity with the camera. We've been into many different commodities over the years: scrap, coal. This is on the port and the harbor in downtown Providence. We've operated coal trains to both Bow, New Hampshire and Mount Tom. This is a Mount Tom coal train that's on the Conrail Boston line, CSX Boston line right here. This is right down the street from my house right here, and this is in West Warren. And ready to hit the diamond here in Palmer. We supply the motive power and cars for the train. The train was offloaded in Mount Tom and then trucked up to the, offloaded in West Springfield and then trucked up to the facility at Mount Tom. Then we got into some coal business for Johnson City, New York, just outside of Binghamton, New York. There was a roundabout alphabet route that brought us from Providence to Worcester to Groton, Connecticut, north on the New England Central into Vermont, over to Whitehall and down the Delaware and Hudson. This is in downtown Stafford Springs, Connecticut on the New England Central Main Line. This is a loaded Bow coal train coming up from Worcester at CP 45 to Barber at the Pan Am Railway interchange. And an empty coal train at the Oakdale Reservoir on the Air to Worcester Main Line. And back under the wire at the Old Saybrook, both daylight jobs at the time back in 2000, 2001. Train NR2 on the right-hand side and the New Haven-based NH1. This is Tilcon Tomaso's Old Saybrook facility. And back in downtown Webster at night, that's the former New York Central branch that went to Webster Junction, just outside of Worcester. And this is along the Plainfield to Worcester Main Line, just above Putnam, Connecticut. As you can probably see, if anybody knows the roster, we've had quite a mix of older GEs, newer GEs, EMD locomotives. So usually whenever there's a nice day, and when I was working days there, I always managed to stop to get a photograph because I figured someday things might change. Along with the lines of some things that will change, no longer we get to see. This is the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus train. These are the animal cars with the elephants and the other larger animals down at Yard Steel, New Haven Yard 17 in Providence, Rhode Island. But of course, working for the railroad every day is always different. There's always challenging conditions, whether it be walking in snow or storms, and it makes for nice photography, but it's not always the best conditions all the time. Down trees, and it makes for long nights. There's sometimes 12 hours can't come quick enough. This is a northbound on the P&W Gardner branch approaching Gardner at Whitney Street in Gardner, the snowstorm. It's another shot up in Gardner per se, shot of all three connecting railroads for us with Pan Am and Norfolk Southern. We've had some special guests over the years. This is we got into the ethanol business. They built an ethanol facility in East Providence, and we were getting our trains from Norfolk Southern, so we had run through Norfolk Southern Power, and one and only time we had one of the NS Heritage units, the Monongahela 8025 came through. We happened to have major air problems that night. The tripods and the cameras were already there, so I had to do what was natural. It's another New England Railroad Club meeting. We had the Pennsylvania GE come down for a visit. And this is a Norfolk Southern run-through loaded ethanol train at Norton Company up in north part of Worcester and Greendale. Coming off the Gardner branch, you can see it snaked all the way around right underneath the Route 190 bridge up coming off Indian Hill. We had lots of different visitors from NS to UP to BNSF Power come to Worcester. This is CP45 downtown Worcester. And of course, this is our facility in East Providence, Motiva Enterprises. They occasionally, about every 2 to 3 months, we'll get 4 or 5 trains. And it's very, very good business for the railroad. Along with the ethanol, the P&W thought it was a good idea to get some more powerful locomotives. So between us and the Vermont Railway, we purchased 4 SD70Ms, and 2 went to the VTR, 2 went to the P&W, and eventually they were repainted. This is a shot of the Worcester to Plainfield job heading south, with one of the 70s headed for the paint shop. And here's the 102 just getting ready for its trip to the shop. And then they were repainted in the P&W's orange and brown scheme. And thankfully I had those for a couple of trips, so I was able to get some good photos of those. This is in Putnam, Connecticut. That's another run through Norfolk Southern ethanol train with Canadian Pacific Power. This is in Millbury, Mass, just south of Worcester. And then along the lines with the SD70s, we did lease some GATX SD60s and SD40s for stone, coal, and ethanol service. Our trains eventually also came from the Vermont Railway. We pooled power with Vermont Railway and New England Central. This is in Brattleboro, Vermont, the Brattleboro, Vermont yard of a loaded ethanol train coming down the former CV main line. Little variety here at Worcester between CSX and some run-through power, and us coming off the Gardner branch with a load of Autoracks. Eventually, both SD70s were painted in the scheme. One of the very few times they were paired together due to some weight restrictions. They were heavy engines. This is in North Grovedale, Connecticut, on the nightly train, NRWO. 2016, the Genesee, Wyoming made an offer to purchase the railroad. Bob Eater had owned the railroad for close to 43 years, so him and his family decided it was time to sell. And this was one of the original board of director trains where they had discussions with G&W right by the headquarters in Hammond Street in Worcester. They assigned one of the new SD70s to the business train. This was for the public stockholders meeting that they actually, the decision had already been made, but this was the final train before they sold to G&W. Shortly thereafter, first of the year came and G&W purchased the property and made their presence and made their changes to motive power. They came in and repainted a number of locomotives. 4302, unfortunately, was one who got repainted orange. This is on the NECR in downtown Brattleboro, Vermont. This is a pretty good look, probably taken just about a month ago, what the P&W looks like now. Half of the fleet is in the orange scheme, and the other half is still in the original Providence and Worcester scheme. This is an empty ethanol train headed north to downtown Woonsocket, Rhode Island. That's the home of the annual Polar Express that we operate every December. And on the Connecticut side, this is along the French River, just north of Putnam, Connecticut. This is the daily Plainfield to Worcester train, which is now a daylight train. And of course, going back to when I was a kid, my dad, my grandfather always brought me down, and silly pictures of me standing out of 2006. Funnily enough, 25 years later, I'd be working as an engineer for them. This is one trip my son came along for the ride with me, and he snapped a photo of me copying an order. And I'm thankful that he enjoys the hobby with me. He comes out with me photographing, and we do modeling. We had the new painted SD70 this particular day, so my boss was good enough to let him come for a ride that day. Another passenger train. Of course, we operate many passenger trains per year. One of the few times you witnessed a caboose on the rear of the passenger train due to the fact that the observation car was getting rebuilt and repainted. And we'll finish it off with a twilight shot of the P&W in Putnam, Connecticut. This is international paper in Putnam, Connecticut at the end of the day. And that's what I have for you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
That was great.
Yep.
Yeah, Steve, some of those are postcard ready photographs, man. They were really, really nice.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for giving us that history. And
yeah.
I wish Donnie Iris was here to comment on all of that, because he's such a P&W. He's a crazy P&W guy. But anyways, thank you once more. Next up, guys, is Gary Bunsey who's going to talk about a particular bed and breakfast and what's going on down in that area. Gary, let me find you so I can, there you are. Let me give you presentation rights. And hold on one second. You got them. So now you have to accept. There you go.
Okay, are we in? We're in. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, get into slideshow here. All right, so we're going to talk about the Tunnel Inn and the magic of the Allegheny Mountains. Before I get too involved with this, I am going to make an announcement that the innkeeper of the Tunnel Inn is also attending the show tonight from Gallitzin, Pennsylvania. But to be fair, I will say that there are other bed and breakfasts that cater to rail fans in the area. The Station Inn in Crescent isn't too far away from the Tunnel Inn. Bridgeview Bed and Breakfast just outside of Harrisburg is a great place. The Cassandra Railroad Overlook Motel is to the west of Crescent. We've stayed there. It's okay. And then last but not least, and I think John Peters is on here too, and he can attest, Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, the Falls Flagstop is the worst we ever stayed at. So
yeah, I even bailed out for one night.
Yeah. So anyway, so we're going to talk about the Tunnel Inn and the magic of the Allegheny. Now, what's the magic of the Allegheny? Is that's these little blue signs that they promote rail fanning in this area of Pennsylvania. And so that's what we're going to talk about here. So next up is the Station Inn. Okay, I mean the Tunnel Inn. I'm sorry, Bob. If you can just see to the left in the picture, the lower left, there's a train coming out of the Gallitzin tunnels. This is Bob Elder, who is the innkeeper of the Tunnel Inn. Bob is a Massachusetts native from the Leominster Lunenburg area, and back in January 2018, he packed everything up and moved to Gallitzin, Pennsylvania to take over the proprietor of this establishment. And it's one of my favorites anyway, so far. Now this here is, this is looking at the tunnel plus the Station Inn. I'm sorry, Bob, the Tunnel Inn to the right. Now across the bridge from Bob's place is the Tunnels Park and Museum, which they have a caboose and a couple, some memorabilia. Here's a picture of the caboose, an old Pennsy caboose. So standing next to the Tunnel Inn's parking lot is this westbound NS train with one of the heritage units leading, the Central of Georgia unit. Bear with me. I'm trying to get my whole screen up here.
Gary, see all the way over on the left when it says from beginning. See, yeah.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
Click on that.
Let me start right there.
Yeah. Now it might go. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Or
okay.
From the current slide, it'll actually get rid of the stuff on the left. It should.
Yeah. I thought I had this done. Let me try. There we go. All right. Let me get back. Here we go. Now we're in. All right. So here's a westbound exiting the tunnel. Now, something about the tunnels. In Gallitzin, there were 3 tunnels back when the Pennsy built the railroad. You had the Gallitzin Tunnel, which is just to the left of this opening, which was closed up. This is actually the Allegheny Tunnel, which they double-tracked back in a few years ago and did the clearance work for double stacks and auto racks. On the far side of town, on track 1, is the new Portage Tunnel. which you'll see that a train on that line a little bit later. Here's the same train now that he's pulled out of the Allegheny Tunnel. You can just you can't really see the portal. I think I'll point it out here. It's just to the left of that existing tunnel. Yes, and here's the Amtrak, the westbound Pennsylvania, exiting the tunnel. There's your tunnel. There's your closed-off tunnel portal. That was the Gallitzin Tunnel. But as far as we're concerned, they're still all it's in the town of Gallitzin, so it's the Gallitzin tunnels anyway. But for record keeping, this is actually the Allegheny Tunnel when it was built. This is from the bridge, that Jackson Street Bridge, which is right in front of Bob's place. Another westbound. He's coming up track 2. The fire track is track 3. Now we're going to go inside of Bob's place. This is where you go in the main entrance. That's his dispatcher's board as he records the guests and the dates that they're staying. That's the breakfast room and entertainment room. Bob will take care of everything you need. So we were just down there in July, and my wife was with me, and she drinks coffee, and I'm not much of a coffee drinker, so I said to Bob, "What, no orange juice?" And next thing you know, he's gone. And about 15 minutes later, he's back with a quart of orange juice. He went down to the store to pick me up some orange juice. So what a guy. All right, that's the stairway. That's around the second floor. You can see through the windows, that's the Jackson Street Bridge. That's the corridor leading to the 4 bedrooms. The 2 rooms on the left, 2 rooms on the right are all like a queen-size bed. The 2 rooms on the left are 2 small beds. There's inside of the room of one of the big, large single beds. And that's the Baldwin room. This is where John Peters and I stayed last year, and this is also where I stayed this year. And there's Bob with his little secret downstairs in the basement of the Tunnel Inn. And yes, the Cheat River Railway Motor Power did make a visit down there to the Tunnel Inn. Right, that's the back porch of the Tunnel Inn. The tunnels are just down in the little ravine right there. He's got a stove right there if you want to go out on a cool night and warm up. We have another westbound exiting the tunnel on track 3. And another little feature that Bob has is floodlights. These are mounted right on the guardrail. It's a night shot, basically just a quick time exposure on my cell phone. That's why it's a little blurry, but I just wanted to show this for effect. And there's a on and off switch right on the outside deck that you can turn the lights on and off to light up the passing train. Here we got another westbound. There's meeting another train, meeting an eastbound coal train that's going down track 2. One thing I like about going down there is all the helper moves that they have. I love mountain railroading. I love trains crawling up a hill in run 8, barely moving. And then as the train slowly goes by, you're waiting, and here comes the helper set. Now, this train is actually going down the hill, this coal train, and these 4 helpers are on the rear for braking purposes. And there they are going into the tunnel. This is basically the new set of helpers, the SD70 ACEs. They're slowly replacing the previous set, which were basically ex-Conrail, ex-Norfolk Southern SD50s. This is the new set. These are the helpers of the day now. This is taken in July, going down track 1. Here's a set pushing westbound up track 2. There's a shot in Gallitzin. It's a tough shot to get nowadays because the brush is just growing up so bad. This is the overlook at Gallitzin. This is basically due east of where Bob's place is, the tunnel in. This is actually track 1 coming out of the new Portage Tunnel. And if you look real close, you can see the track staking in the hillside back there. But again, this shot is just getting so grown in. I was lucky to get this back in 2005, I believe. So again, these blue signs, all right? So we just did the Gallitzin tunnels. So other locations are the observation deck in Crescent, Kearney's Crossing in Lilly, the railroad overlook in Cassandra, the Station Museum in Portage, and Bridge Street in Summer Hill. So we're going to just take a quick look at all of these locations, a few shots at each locations. Again, I mean, what could be any better than this when they actually promote Railfan and they put these signs up so you can follow them. So this is the Crescent observation deck. And from this location, you can view the fueling servicing facility for the helpers that are at Crescent. At the top of the grade, they have a service facility for the helpers. And here we have a Chevy meet, all Chevys, helpers, road job, and 2 high rails. That's the observation deck on the right. Night shot here. This caboose is on display as well at Crescent. Here we got an eastbound climb in the hill on track 1. Basically the top of the grade is right just west of the tunnel in Gallitzin. So this guy is climbing the hill here. He's got the Wabash Heritage Unit second out. Another view of the Crescent engine facility. Here we got an eastbound loaded coal train coming up track 1. I think that's John Peters over there in the observation platform on the left. John and I made many, many, many trips together. All right, so with the Conrail painted engine, I'm going to say this is early, late 2000s. 4 set of helper. Looks like all SD40-2s. Now we're going to go to Kearney's Crossing in Lilly, which is a grade crossing. Bells and whistles, so you get a little bit of notification of the trains coming. This is a westbound empty coal train meeting an eastbound intermodal. Now, on the west side of the hill, basically Crescent, the westbounds can sneak up on you because they're not working. They're just gliding downhill. The eastbounds will make noise. You can hear them coming for quite a distance. So you got to be ready if you want to catch these westbounds. Here's an eastbound climbing up track 1. Again, we heard this coming for quite a distance. Now, this is a little bit further west of Kearney's Crossing. We're still in Lilly, but we're at, I guess, looks like it's a DPW shit, a small public works for the town of Lilly. It's always been a great favorite of mine. This is an eastbound coming underneath the signal bridge, which now is no longer there. As of last fall, all intermediate signals have been taken down because they're now operating on cab signals. All right, this is looking east from the DPW shed. We have actually 2 westbounds overtaking each other here. So another westbound, that's an overhead bridge that'll take you to Cassandra. I just walked up the tracks a little bit to shoot this westbound. So now the next stop is the Cassandra, Pennsylvania, the railroad overlook. To this day, I still can't figure out the bridge. It's quite narrow. I'm not sure if it was built as a pedestrian bridge or a narrow auto bridge, but it's a bridge, an old bridge that crosses all 3 tracks in Cassandra. This is looking west. This is an eastbound loaded coal train. In the against the rocks here, these are slide fences. If you can see all the poles here, there's like a mesh fencing, and if a rock disturbs that fence, it sends out, trips a red signal. This is a 4-unit set of helpers pushing that coal train up the hill. Now we got a westbound coming down track 3. Again, this, you really need a scanner to hear, or you really got to listen, because this literally just snuck up on us because he's going west down the hill, not making any noise at all. Nice welded rail. Unless he's got a flat spot, you don't hear much. Another coal train climbing the hill, track 1 at Cassandra. This is a morning shot of a westbound on track 3 at Cassandra Overlook. All right, so Portage, Pennsylvania Station Museum. I put a question mark because I've never been to the Station Museum. I've been to Portage, and where I've been is on the west side of town at a set of signals, again, which are no longer there. This is an eastbound at the west, how to describe this. There's an industrial track that services a coal loader, which you'll see, the Benz Creek Industrial Track. This is at the west switch where that track ties back into, I think back in the Conrail days, they called it BC. So this is an eastbound climbing track 1. This is a westbound back in, when did we go, John? March of 2019, last year. All right, you can see the nice Pennsy position light signals right there. This is November, same location, the signals are gone. You can see the hand throw switch for that industrial track there off to the right. I mentioned about the coal loader. This is the Sonman Mine off the Benz Creek Industrial Track. The mines are all mined out, but they're still trucking in coal to be loaded, be processed and loaded. And several times we've gone down there, we've actually had the opportunity to catch a train getting loaded there at the mine. And it's right next to a public road, so you can pull off the side and watch the whole process. All right, our last stop, Summer Hill, Bridge Street. These shots, I haven't been there in a while, so these shots are mid to late 2000s. This is on the Bridge Street railroad or highway bridge. Now this train just loaded at that Sonman Mine. So he just came off the Benz Creek Industrial Track. He's actually going west on track 1, which back in the day, you had to do it with a train order because the track was signaled for an eastbound direction only. That's his helpers, which actually were the leaders of going through the coal loader at the time. Again, the signal bridge is all gone here. That's looking to the west. Just basically out of the curve is South Fork, Pennsylvania, where there's a branch line that services several coal loaders. And we can't forget Horseshoe Curve because it's in the area. So I got a few shots of Horseshoe Curve. It's 6 miles, basically 6 miles from Bob's Place, the Tunnel Inn. This was back in the fall of 2010, I think it was, eastbound coming down the hill. This is the westbound climbing the hill at the Horseshoe Curve. This is another westbound with some Union Pacific power. This is a trip that we all, some of us took together. Jim Fenner, that's our module coordinator, Robbie Cabrera with the white and black jacket. We got an eastbound coming down the hill at the curve. And there's that same westbound. I like the fall colors, and I did some like to frame it like a peephole type shot here. Oh, you just never know who you'll see when you get to the horseshoe curve. Of all people, this was our presenter that was just before me, Steve Carlson, back in, I think it was 2004 or 2005.
I forgot about
Imagine that.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Look at how much hair he has.
Yeah, I know.
All right. So we're at Gallitzin. We showed you tracks 2 and 3, which are outside of Bob Elder's place, the Tunnel Inn. However, this is track 1, which is the far side of town, which you don't see trains unless you drive over there. So this is an eastbound starting down track 1, also known as the slide. It's quite a grade going east. You can just see over the top of the tank cars the old AR tower for Allegheny Ridge. That's in the process of being torn down right now. There's a set of helpers on the rear. As you can see, the train just literally dropping down the grade. And that's our parting shot here, Gallitzin, a little moonlit shot, and the Pennsy caboose at Crescent. That's all I got, John.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. And did our Tunnel Inn gentleman want to say hello?
You on there, Bob?
Hey, you did a fantastic job there, Gary.
Okay, I better get a discount next time I come down.
You can count on it, buddy. You can
Yeah,
count on it. I'll have orange juice in the fridge for you.
That was a 20-minute ad if I've ever seen one.
Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it.
Well done, Gary. Nicely done. Let me take the screen. Let me take the screen back. And guys, our final speaker, it was on in the past, but people asked and wanted to hear more. And I love the topic this time. Bob Paquette is going to talk about when he first visited a railroad. The guy gave him, asked him his opinion, and I'll leave it at that, Bob. So let me give you presentation rights. You have them now. So go ahead and accept.
Here.
Yeah, you should see the accept.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Okay, I'm gonna move this. I'll move all of this over to the other side of my screen so that I can work here. All right. All right.
We're not seeing any pictures yet, but that's okay. We can see your screen.
Okay, yeah. Nope, 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 nope. Get that rid of that. Backing up.
Good thing I'm not trying to do a presentation.
Oh gosh.
I heard you, Al.
Okay, take me out and put. I mean,
No, you're okay. You just need to find the directory where your slides are.
yeah. Okay, I had it there, and then the screen came up, and I lost it for a second.
You said you moved something out of the way. I would.
Yeah, I moved the. Yeah, this. I tried to get that out of there. I've got this. I've got this. Okay, I'm going to have to open it up again. Okay, let me open it up. There's my gallery. Bob stuff. There's the show and tell. Okay.
There you go.
All right. Okay. I want views. I want the extra large. Okay, ready?
Yeah, just go ahead and click on that first one. You should be fine.
Okay, very good. Coming up. And I'll enlarge this. Go on. Okay. I guess I can't. All right.
No, you're okay. Go back to the plus. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
There you go. And
Then I'm just going to bring that one back up. I can't enlarge it. So
that's
that's
okay. We could see.
okay. All right. This is for those of you who remember the show and tell that I did last time. That was the construction of the layout at the Pioneer Valley Hobby Shop. This is the presentation of, it's more of a prequel. This is how I ended up getting the gig of doing that layout at the hobby shop. For those of you who know Dave Moquin, he lives in Westfield, and he's got a nice layout, a full room layout in his basement. And I used to visit his house quite frequently. And this is going back to 2009. And at one visit, when we were running his trains, he says, you know, you never really ask what I think of your layout. And I says, well, it does have a few spots that I would probably change. I says, it's a little boring in some places. And I says, this in particular, at the far end of the room, I says, you really need to have a wow factor. And he didn't know what a wow factor was. So I says, you need something where when you come into the room, you have something that people look at it and go, wow, that's really nice, you know? And so I says, I'll tell you what, we could change the end of your layout down at the end of the room. We could take that out and put in something that's a real wow factor. And he says, you got some ideas? I says, oh, I certainly do. I says, you willing to go? He says, sure. He says, when do you want to start? I says, well, do you have a Sawzall? And at that point, we did this. And we started, and he took he gave me the Sawzall, and I says, well, you might want to turn your head away because there's going to be some serious demolition here. So I ripped out this section, and it got even worse after that. We opened it up. So this is that whole section that was in there before. I says, well, your layout's not going to be running for a little while anyway. I says, because this is going to take a bit. I says, I expect that you and I will work together on this. He goes, oh, sure, absolutely. Well, that was funny. Anyhow, so we decided to build a gorge, and I started building the form, and here's the lake at the top of it. And as you can see, the forms, as it came forward, the gorge got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it became 6 feet across by the time we were done here. And it was going to be a major change in the end of his layout. So you can see it right here. It's reinforced right down the center to keep it together so it didn't move. And then I started checking to see where the track was going to lay across the gorge. And I wanted to put a couple of bridges in. These aren't what we were going to put in there at the end. We just needed a couple of spare bridges that he had so I could put together. So I rubber band them to a yardstick and laid across there so I could see how this was going to play out in the gorge. And I started putting regular metal window screen, and it stapled it to the contour, the plywood contours. And then after the screen was trimmed all the way around, then it gave me a support for the plaster cloth. So I started putting the plaster cloth in over the screen, and that gave me the foundation for the gorge. And you can see that it extended out to the left, and it went farther back on the track so that I could change the elevation so that this one here would match here. And so this one would match up here, and this one here would come to this one. I had to make some minor adjustments. And then it went all the way around to here. And so it was a little more than 6 feet by the time we were finished with that. Now it was time, oh yeah, well, that's his cat. And when I was ready to do something, the cat was always there. So after I got all the plaster and the screen in place, and he came up with some bridges, and it turned out that I had to cut out a lot of the screen because we had to make modifications. He says, I'd like to have this. So that's what we put in. And this cardboard is a template from a bridge that I saw in the Walters catalog, and it was in a metal arch bridge. You'd see it in Austria up in the mountains, and I saw it in the catalog, and I says, that's what we need in the front of the layout, something really dramatic. That's your wow factor right there in the front. And he says, yeah, but that's $128. I goes, yeah, but I says, we need it. So he bought it. And when it came in, we laid it out, and this is the cardboard template of what the bridge was going to look like. And there was no support at all underneath. It's only supported at each end and up here at the top there. And then it was time to put the new supports where the bridges are going to sit. So I had to start putting in wooden supports inside underneath the screen work. And you can see them here, the bridges. Now this bridge is going to sit here, and the other bridge is going to be here, and the arch, this angle here, will support the bridge that goes across to the other side. And after the blocks and the supports are in place, I put the screen back here. I replaced it all the way around here. And then it was time to test it one more time to make sure that everything fit. And it was time to cover the patches with plaster cloth again. As you can see, the screen is here, plaster cloth going in, and now it's all repaired. And this is a two-step putting a base for two different bridges. The bridge in the back that crosses here rests on the upper footing, and the bridge that goes across here, farther over to here, will sit on the lower part of the footing. Now you can see that's the second bridge in here. The first one sits back there. The second bridge in the front sits here, there, and here. And now it was time to do a little detail work. I make these plaster slabs, and these are the same things that I use in the layout at the hobby shop. I cast plaster of Paris slabs, and I use them for everything. And so I make sheets of it, and then I cut it with a hacksaw blade and insert them where I needed them. This is the footing here. I've got a stone wall in here, and this is the base that will hold the arch bridge right in here. Now you can see that that styrofoam block that was there before with the two elevation footing is now got stonework all the way around, and I put some rock formations to hide the way it to when it's sitting on the layout. And right there you can see the two bridges, and here's some rock formations and more stonework on here, and I use more of those slabs, and I've got a slab there, another one sitting on top of here, another one goes there, back there, and I apply them using Sculptamold as mortar. So I kind of use the Sculptamold as if I was putting in a brick, and I butter it up with Sculptamold and I mash it in place, and then I just wipe out all the excess that oozes out. I do the same thing with rock formations. If I cast them in advance and let them harden, and then I break them up and put the pieces together, I apply them using Sculptamold to apply it to the plaster cloth. Now you can see the bridge, the arch bridge that he bought, and it's a terrible blue. That's what it comes, that's the plastic that it colors when it comes out of the box. The plastic shell right here is what comes in the kit. It's a hollow footing right here. So what we did to make so that we could lift it out when we were working with it, I put a piece of saran wrap inside that plastic shell, and I poured some plaster of Paris in there, and then when it hardened, I lifted it out, and those plaster pieces that were cast in there, they become the footing, they become applied to the layout. Here's in the far back is a piece of 2-inch foam. I made an arch bridge out of a 2-inch foam, the blue foam, a pink foam, and then I covered it with the plaster of Paris stonework, and I put the cap on the top of it, and I custom cut all of the arch, the keystone, and all of the stonework around the arch here. And there's more rock formations up against that bridge, that arch bridge there. And now you can see them in place. There's the arch bridge in the back. There's the second bridge across here. There's the third bridge, which is right there. It sits here, there, and there. And then the front is the fourth bridge, and this one here sits here, here, there, and there. And then you can see it sitting here. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And oh, don't sit down. Every time I went to sit down, there was a cat sitting on the chair. And okay, I start doing the rock formations underneath the bridges now. Here's the stonework, more of those little slabs that I put in everywhere. There's more rock formations down in here, and there's the footing for the bridge. I still hate that blue for that bridge. And now on the left, I did all the stonework and the slabs that divide each panel so we could make the curve. And I put rock formations right up against the stonework. And all of this rock formation here was cast right up to here, there, and all through here was finished off. And then it was time. Well, this is another view of it from here, the arch, all of the stonework. There's going to be a waterfall that cascades down through here. Water pours down the rocks, and then it pours into a lake at the bottom. And the culvert, which we inserted right here, will have a spillway that's it'll have water pouring out, splashes down the rocks. It's kind of winds its way down and flows down into the lake. And that's an overview of all of the plaster work. Now it's just about ready to paint it. So now that the plaster is in place, we test the bridges one more time to make sure everything fits, lift them out, and we start doing the color. I use acrylics and I dilute them, and I start highlighting them, and I do a lot of shadowing. And then this is now finishing off the color here, and I put some staining in here where the water is going to flow down, so make it look as if the green was making that across the stone. And this will also do the same thing here. The culvert pours in. I've darkened this so that when the water flows through here, it will look more natural. I use the Woodland Scenics ground foam, and I mix it with Elmer's glue, and I make kind of a looks like oatmeal, and then I apply it all around between the rocks, and then I spray it with wet water, and that anchors it right down to the rocks. Now you can see after it's applied, it adds interest to the rocks and it makes them a little more realistic. And I made sure that I sprayed them with diluted India ink so that the black would go into all the cracks and make it look like real stonework. And I started on the footing here. I did the multicolored stonework that was kind of decorative. There's some pine trees, a little greenery in there. You can see it from that side. I have multicolored stones here. Once again, there's those slabs that I use. I use them for everything. Some more some foliage all in here. And then when I take a step back, I've applied the water from the culvert, the spillway, and it pours down into here, flows down here. I had stained the rocks in advance so that when I flow the water down here, it would look more natural. And the you can see where I use those slabs of plaster everywhere. Oh my God. Holy moly, I've got so many slabs. If I hadn't done that, and that's kind of what it looks like. There's even I drilled in and put a piece of tubing in there. I wanted to put a drain pipe there. I don't know why, I just did. So there's a drain pipe, and I had a little piece of this waterfall I had left over. So I stuck it in there and made it drain pipe, and I had the water flowing down here. And you can see there's waterfall coming from the lake above. It flows over underneath the bridge, the arch bridge. It flows across the rocks down to a upper pool here. Then the waterfall cascades down, and then the lake is down here at the bottom. And with all of the foliage and the greenery in all of those little places, it looks pretty natural now. And I hate that blue bridge, so it was time to paint it. So I painted it gray, and I put all of that. Then the footings, instead of the blue plastic footings, I painted them concrete gray. And with this gray and the footings and the bridges, I painted rust color. And we tested it with the track and the trains going across there, and it worked perfectly. And that's kind of how that worked. Now, the reason why I did all of this is the prequel to the hobby shop layout, is because, and you can see how much more there was all along there. You see, later on, Dennis Gamelli, owner of the Pioneer Valley Hobby Shop, he stopped at Dave's house and he saw the layout. And I had been working on that for 3 months, and it's probably Dave called him up and said, you got to come over and take a look at it. Anyhow, when Dennis showed up, he saw the layout and he asked, who did this? And he gave him my name. And after that, well, he asked me to come and see him at the hobby shop. And at the hobby shop, he asked me if I would build him an HO demonstration layout for the shop. And it sounded like a lot of fun. So after a brief time, we worked out some arrangement for it. And 8 years later, the hobby shop layout is finished, and it's now in the possession of the Amherst Railway Society, and it's in the clubhouse now. And that's how I ended up getting that gig at the hobby shop. And that's that.
Excellent. Bob, thank you so much. I just love watching how you do things. It really, I could sit here and watch that kind of stuff because you pick up ideas every single time. So I really appreciate it. So guys, that's our show and tell for this evening. I've just opened up the lines. If any of you wanted to say a few things or just say hello or whatever, don't forget next Saturday. That's a week from tomorrow. There's a 7¼ inch outdoor meeting. We're going to play 7¼ and ballast some more track and do a few things and just have some fun. So anyone on this show and tell is certainly welcome to that. And we will hopefully see many of you there. So let me know, or if you have any questions for anybody, please let me know. Now, there's been a couple of comments. Hold on, let me see. I'm just reading one comment here. Oh, okay. Joe Curlin has said, it's been some time. We just got in the show in West Springfield before the pandemic hit. I don't get to many able events besides the big show, but I've been thinking about how to stay in touch. What do you think of a Facebook group specially devoted to just us so we could chat about things that we're doing and it wouldn't just be our postings of Facebook? I like that idea, Joe. I will talk to the appropriate people so we could almost have our own private blog, that kind of thing, where we could talk about what we're doing. People could ask for advice, as Joe has said. Phil Johnson says that's a great idea, but we need to get a little bit more input. Al has said it's a great idea. So yeah, we need to do everything we can, guys, to keep us together, to keep us interested, to make us not feel so lonely, I guess, right? As silly as that sounds, but honestly, I miss all of this. So the other thing we want to do is put up an area where we can sell and ask for things. So we could have a for sale area and a wanted. Hey, I'm in need of a so and so. And Doug Scott has just said, anyone in need of a Kodak carousel slide tray. So let Doug Scott know. And guys, so wouldn't it be nice to just have a chat session online anytime so that we could share ideas and say, hey, I've got this. Does anybody want it? Or I'm looking for this. Does anybody have one? So we'll keep plugging away at all of that stuff, and we'll go from there. Any final comments from anybody?
Is there going to be another show and tell?
Yes, we're gonna continue to have show and tells, guys, until we start meeting on a regular basis again. So we'll let
Okay.
you know. I don't want to have just one a month. I think I'd love to go about every 3 weeks, but we have a board meeting next week. We're going to bring that up. Joe will give us some good advice about that. But we'll keep plugging away. Keep looking in your email, guys, because we'll do frequent email blasts, all that kind of stuff. Show update. The Springfield Health Department has our plan. So we will, it's a very long plan. And we'll hear from them within 2 to 3 weeks. The Big E likes the plan. They are the one that had to submit it. They think it will go. If it does, we've got a couple of options. Keeping all the buildings with a lot of space between everybody, because we've had a few cancellations, especially the Canadians, because their border is closed. Or we may close a small building, but we'll see. We'll keep you all posted. But right now, we're still in good standing. Everything still looks good. I'll keep everybody posted. And don't forget that meeting a week from tomorrow, starting at 9 a.m. until we get tired, which I said will probably be around noon. And guys, that's all I've got. Any last call?
Hey, John.
Yes, sir.
John.
Yeah.
So Steve Carlson and I have been secretly texting during the show here. For future show and tells, he's offered to do another show. I think it's a great idea. He's got some great stuff.
Yes, I love looking at some. I told him when we were, just to let people know, if you want to be in this show and tell, guys, we actually have a rehearsal so you know how to control your screen when I give permission for presentation. You know, not that I'm the boss. But that's what you ask. You know, you give permission to so and so, and they have to accept. But we have a rehearsal. But the whole reason me mentioning that is so you get familiar with everything. But when I saw Steve's photos, I went, damn, some of these, and I told him some of these are unbelievably good, especially the last one, a couple of the night scenes. So yeah, I would love to see it again. This is Gary's second time presenting, and Doug Scott has got a ton of stuff.
Technically third.
Well, yeah, I know.
If you remember right, I had to babysit the president.
Yeah, so. You could work. Well, you could work that out with Joe between the two of you. But anything else, guys? But yes, I want to have more.
Great job to all the presenters today.
Thanks a lot. Great job.
Oh, thank you, Lynn. Yeah, I enjoyed this one. They get better, guys, as we go. We get more and more used to it. I love having a bunch of different things.
I just want to say hi from Ohio.
Oh, who's that?
That's my son, Gary Jr. in Ohio.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Gary Jr., how are you? Yeah, okay. but anyway.
Fantastic. I'm loving these show and tells.
Thanks.
Right. Thanks. It's fun being together again.
Oh, Si, I'm so glad you made it. It's a nice way to make it happen without you having to fly all the way here.
Right. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for doing it with us, Si. Guys, I'm going to sign off now. Look at your emails for the next time. And thank you all for showing up. We had, at one point, guys, we had about 40 people. So our numbers are still strong. We were worried about it for a Friday night. But the whole reason why we did that was Steve works nights during the week. So we needed to have his presentation. We needed to see it. So, but we'll let you know when it's going to be. This is also the night when there were work sessions, you know, when we used to have the round robin work sessions. So we'll keep you posted on which date and the time and all that good stuff. I hope to see you guys a week from tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend. Be safe.
See you later, John.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.